A trick to Hamady Brothers. I watched a movie today. Of all the movies I could have watched, this movie was one called Big Fish. In some ways, it is one of those movies you ask yourself, why am I watching this? Though, for me, like many things, it stirred memories of times past. Was it the '68 Charger, or was it the house much like the house of my early childhood? One will never know. However, like many things in my life, it aroused memories of years past. For me, my memories often go back to times spent with my father. Maybe that's why this movie awakened my emotions. Big Fish turns out to be the father. Oh, early on, you might think it's the fish talked about in early stories. But no, Big Fish really turns out to be the dad. Unlike this story, the relationship between myself and Dad was never broken. I thank God for that. We spent many hours together over the years. Of course, as I think back now, it certainly was not nearly enough. But I don't believe you can ever spend enough time with family. And, as a son, you can never spend enough time with your father. Lesson to learn: take every opportunity to spend time with your dad. Thinking back over the years, I can almost remember back to when I was just a toddler. Although I think some of that is because there have been so many stories told over the years, my brain has come to believe I can remember the situations. It's only because the stories have been told over and over again. Much like the stories in Big Fish, they are even embellished each time they are told. Each with a slightly different flavor, depending on who's telling it. As I think of the time spent with Dad, I'm sure my mind will bounce back and forth with memories of young and old. These writings are meant to piece them together, whether they are in order makes no difference. This memory takes us back to a time when grocery shopping was a family affair. For those of my time, this was likely a normal thing. Maybe it was just because our parents didn't want to leave us home alone. Maybe it was because they knew somewhere deep inside, it was building memories. However, this one time we were out, it locked a memory that has been talked about for many years. First, you must know that Dad was certainly no wimp when it came to brute strength. The story has it, Grandpa made the boys move a rock pile when they claimed they were bored. You can only imagine the muscles that were built. Nonetheless, Dad was in pretty good shape. And we were making one of our regular grocery shopping trips. This was to the local Hamady Brothers. A name synonymous with Flint and the grocery business. So much so that we called the bags, they packed our groceries in Hamady bags. This was a common household item of the day in the local family cupboard. We had made the regular trip in, to fill the needs of our family for a couple weeks. On the way in, we noticed some young locals hanging out in the parking lot. Given the times, these boys had nothing else to do but hang out. A common thing to do, of the time. For older crowds, that might mean the A&W. But, for these boys, I guess it meant the Hamady Brothers. When I think of that, it challenges my brain to think this was considered entertainment. However, I'm still challenged by the fact that boys can be entertained for literally hours and even days, sitting around staring at a video game. These boys were not necessarily looking for trouble. But, that night, they found it. Our family had just completed a spree, which would fill our pantry for about 2 weeks. The family was still young at the time. This meant it was the original Fab Four. 2 sparklingly handsome young lads. And 2 wonderfully gorgeous young girls. We had to be, at best, from youngest to oldest, for to 9 years old. So, you can imagine the way the 9-year-old girl looked. These boys, hanging outside, were bound to try to impress. Much to their surprise, they were in for an awakening. This chipper, rock-pile-moving, 29-year-old was about to give them a run for their money. Of course, going into the store, Dad was always on the lookout and, I believe, spotted these young hoodlums looking for trouble. They must have been all about 10 or 12. After filling our baskets with all Hamadys had to offer. And, in today's world, that would be nothing in comparison. Dad paid the bill, and we headed to the door. Outside awaited an entourage of young boys, just looking for a good time. The stores, at that time, catered to families. Often, there were promotions for products that would include anywhere from giving away fine chinette to bath towels or any gimmick that would arouse a desire to lean toward buying a particular product or returning to this franchise. The stores would do things, much like McDonald's, putting prizes in their Happy Meals. On this particular day, Hamady Brothers was handing out balloons to all the boys and girls. Now you have to know, in the 60s, handing a young child a balloon was much like handing a kid an iPod today. It's hard to believe you could impress a kid with a balloon on a string. But yep, it's true, you would excite a child to no end by handing them a helium balloon on a string. So, every child walking out of Hamady's that day walked out with a balloon in their hand and a smile on their face. Now, think about it. McDonald's puts a prize in a Happy Meal. What does that do for a kid? This brings them to a point of every time mom and dad head to the grocery store, Johnny and Sally are saying, "Can I go? Can I go?" This particular time, for young children walk out of Hamady Brothers, sporting their big colorful balloons, flying high in the sky, on a 4-foot piece of twine. All with grins, ear to ear. Only to be confronted by the gang, waiting outside the front door. Little did they know, there was a bear about to be aroused from his winter nap. These boys could not have seen it coming. As we hit the electronic mat and the door flew open, the world changed, as we knew it, before our very eyes. Yes, I said it, the door opened by itself. By simply stepping on a mat. Doesn't seem like much today. But, oh, how we were so amazed by this new technology. A door that would open simply by stepping on the mat. To this day, I still do not know what technology was in that mat to make it open. But boy, were we fascinated by that piece of new technology. Sorry, I digressed. Anyway, as we stepped through the door and out into the crisp spring air, our world changed. You must know we lived in a place of pretty much zero violence. We never knew there was anything in the world to be afraid of. Short of the occasional wild bear or wildcat roaming through the neighborhood, we knew nothing of violent crimes. So, what was on the other side of that door would change our lives forever. As we stepped through that door, much to our surprise, this gang, these bullies, these thugs, waited for us. Just waiting to pounce on us. With no regard for family values. With no regard for the sense of safety we held in our little minds. With absolute and total disregard for what was ours. These thugs stole my sister's balloon. The gall. The audacity. The total lack of attention to human sanctity. What could they have possibly been thinking? And, on top of it all, did they even look to see what was behind this sweet, young, innocent girl? Little did they know that there was a rock-moving, engine-building, house-building, 29-year-old father about to step through the doorway behind this innocent little girl. What were they thinking when they had the introspective to make a decision like they were about to make? As we made our way through the door, this sweet, beautiful young girl was about to be accosted. Thinking back on that day, it makes me wonder just how I would have reacted. Would I have made the same decision my father was about to make? Would I have laid my entire livelihood on the line as he did? Would I have put myself in front of danger as he did? Even today, I cannot answer that question. However, walking through that door on that day, my father did not question his destiny. Not for 1 minute. Not for 1 second. As we stepped through that door, the young man, on the Murray bicycle, grabbed my beautiful young sister's balloon and rode furiously off into the distance. Little did he know of what he had just unleashed. Little did he know that he had just struck down on the innocence of a young child. In reality, he is not much her senior. She was not much over 9 years old. He is not more than 12. Nonetheless, he had her balloon. And Dad was not going to let this happen. As the young boy grabbed the balloon and headed on his bicycle across the parking lot, all were in amazement to see what was to happen next. In the next few minutes, this calm, cool, physically fit, young 29-year-old would leap into action without a concern in the world for the outcome. In today's world, he would have probably got 15 to life. But, in the world that existed in the 60s, it went virtually unnoticed. This vibrant young man sprinted into action and chased this lad down until the bike lay on the ground, as the young man grasped for his next breath. To be held until the balloon was safely returned to the father's little girl. As the bike lay in the parking lot, the young man with his heart in his throat was summoned to return the balloon with a sincere apology. To this day, I wonder whatever became of that young man. Did he become a senator? Did he become a CEO? Is he now the president of a bank? It's highly unlikely he became a destitute or a delinquent. There is no doubt in my mind he became a high-ranking official or CEO of a company. Yesterday is just that, it's yesterday. Today, my dad would have seen the 15 to life I spoke of. Yesterday, however, he changed that boy's life. In fact, he changed everyone's life that was in that parking lot that day. And he gave us a story that will be told as long as we live. Author, Rick Ramberg. Contributors, Gordon and Carol Ramberg. Family date, 2012.